Hi.
Hi, how are you?
You're matching your background. Your drape's behind you.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
window
My
dressing.
blanket matches. Cool. that.
It looks good.
Thank
Hi, Tatori. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Do you have your camera?
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and then it looks like we're the only ones that are joining for food service. They're missing out, but I have them posting the tape Zoom meetings because we're getting into calculations. And with any math is something that is hands-on. Yeah. And hopefully they'll view the Zoom video so that they'll understand how to calculate these full-time equivalents, or even just any information we've been going over. You understand it better as we're discussing it, and that's part of food service management, really part of a lot of courses that we're learning virtually, but as much of that we can see each other, discuss the information, maybe able to share my screen to show you examples. All of that is going to help this information be more meaningful to you. So again, I want to share my screen, and this is being recorded. So again, I know of about a couple of students have reached out. They're at work, but I don't know where other people are. You know what I mean? Yeah, they were joining us, and then they just disappeared. So I do follow on Canvas to see if they're doing their work after class today. Again, I want to follow up to make sure that they're taking their tests and, that they're keeping up with the information, because I worry that if I haven't heard from a student, are they actually keeping up with their work? So let's go to our food service management Canvas shell. And let me click here. And I want to go to our timeline, because that's important for us to stay on track as much, because I already did some revisions here, but I don't want to keep revising. Okay, today is the 9th, and I'm still in the workforce staffing, okay? When we return back from spring break, that's another reason why I sort of want students to know spring break starts after Friday, and we're on spring break for that whole week. And again, some of you are just starting, with back to college. I even had students that have been with us a couple of semesters, and when I had met with them earlier, I said, we're on spring break next week. They said, because they kept on talking about next week. I said, well, we're on spring break next week. And then they realized we don't have class next week. So today is the 9th, Friday's the 12th. Spring break is from Monday the 15th through Friday the 19th. And then we come back the week of the 22nd. So when it comes to food service management, we're back on March 23rd. So there's a week gap between here and here, just to bring that to your attention. So when we return back from spring break, I will be finishing up on the PowerPoint on workforce staffing. And then I'll be, definitely be going into diversity, and we'll spend at least 2 weeks on chapter 14, which is on leadership. and then I will test you on April 6th. So you don't have another test until April 6th on chapter 2 and all of the workforce PowerPoint. So you'll be tested on really all the information we've been discussing in that PowerPoint. We're going to go back to that PowerPoint. And again, as okay, last week's Zoom, I don't have posted, and it could have been, I have to watch when I go to the document camera and come back. I believe the recording is interrupted. I really do. So somewhere along the line, I've got to make sure I put the Zoom recording back on, because we're recording now. But for some reason, when I go out of Zoom and share my screen, the recording is being interrupted. Because I don't have last week's recording, I'll go back and check to see if I have it and post it for those that weren't able to attend. But if I don't have it up there by now, it could be that that recording did not record properly. So I have to be real careful when I'm changing my screens. Right now, do you see that it's still recording?
Yes.
Yes.
It says it's recording. I can let you know if you switch to the
Okay, and see
camera
if the
if it still
recording stops. Yes. Yeah, keeping an eye on that for me. That would be great. So from here, case studies. Let's go see when those case studies are due. Boop, boop, boop. Let me go back to the outline. Okay, last week we did case study number 1, correct? Good, and we discussed it. And again, I have to go to see if everyone has submitted their case study, because that's being graded. So their case study was supposed to have been submitted already. So I'll check on that. And then, so again, we don't have our second case study until April 6th. So continue working on your case studies. They have to be uploaded before class on April 6th so that we can discuss them during our April 6th Zoom meeting. We'll discuss case study number 2. After our Zoom meeting, I'll be posting test 2. And of course, the tests stay up for a week and Canvas for you to complete. Okay? So every once in a while, if in doubt, we'll go back to our course outline. Again, here's your case studies. I will be, let me move this. Yes, I haven't opened the FTE practice sheets. I will open FTE practice sheets today. So you will practice, and I can actually open this and show you what it looks like. This will be available to you after class, because I would have gone through how do you calculate FTEs based on productivity. I'll be talking about how to calculate FTEs, your monthly FTEs. And then if you know the number of employees that are working full-time, the number part-time, you can get your total hours. And we want to know our total daily hours. So, and we want to know what are the FTEs for your, what are your daily FTEs? And this tells you we want daily because it's saying daily here. So if we know our total daily hours, the PowerPoint that we're getting ready to go into will tell us that we will divide that those total hours by 8, because a full-time equivalent for a day is 8 hours, okay? Full-time equivalent for a week is 40 hours. For a month, 173.33, and annually 2080 hours, 2080 hours, and we will go over that. And this one is actually asking for annual FTE. So we'll know that we were given the total annual hours. We would divide by 2080 to get the FTE. So I'm just going to quick run through. And you will also, this one is based on monthly. Here's May. May is a month. So if you have your monthly total hours, you divide by 173.33. Even if you use the 173, your answer will come close enough to identify which one's the correct answer. This one again is talking about daily. So this is another example of totaling, and they total your daily hours. And they want to know what are the FTEs. You know that you divide by 8, okay, to get your daily FTEs. This one is, again, how many hours per day are these employees working? So again, if you know how many full-time hours, how many part-time hours, this is based on a week. You total it up, but how many days in a week?
7 days in a week?
Very good. You would divide the total hours for a week by 7 to get the daily hours. See, how many hours per week? So that you will get your daily hours. Those same daily hours, we want to know the daily FTE. So the daily hours divided by 8 will give you your daily FTE. Also, when we go into our PowerPoint, it's going to talk about, say that human resources gives you your total weekly hours, but the manager's hours are incorporated in that total. But you want to just know your non-salary employees. So therefore, you want to subtract those weekly hours that are worked by the food service director, which would be you. We'll talk about that, and how we deduct and what would represent your actual employees' hours, because you have a labor budget and you want to make sure you're within that labor budget. And then the last one here is another example, okay, of when you have an increase in workload. So if you have an increase in workload, you're going to have to put in more hours to get that additional work completed. And it shows you how to calculate the additional FTEs. So we will go over how to solve each one of these practice equations, okay? So we will go over that. So you'll be able to successfully complete that practice sheet. So we're going to go to our modules. We're going to go back to our workforce PowerPoint. And I know that we stopped right before we started to talk about our exempt and unexempt employees. Yeah, we went over all this information last week. And we should be picking up on this slide, correct? I believe this is where we left off, because I don't remember talking about the difference between non-exempt and exempt employees. When we started this particular PowerPoint on workforce and staffing, we differentiated between our professional employees, which would be our RDs, our DTRs. Many times it's that food service manager or the food service director. They don't want to pay us by the hour, okay? Because we typically get a salary, okay? That's good, but not always so good, all right? When I worked at the Academy of Culinary Arts, many of the chefs came from the industry, and they preferred being paid hourly. So at times when they took a job, maybe at the casino, it was more of an executive type position. And the casino or the restaurant or hotel, wherever they worked at, they wanted to pay them as an exempt employee, meaning they would be salaried. Now, RDs, DTRs, teachers, we can, I would say virtually all professionals are salaried, okay? Where you're skilled, definitely your non-skilled employees are going to be paid by the hour, and they're considered to be non-exempt. The primary difference between that non-exempt worker and the exempt worker is the rights they receive regarding wages and time worked. So let's stop right there. Wages and time worked. Because professionals have such a broad range of responsibilities and duties, they want to pay us as an exempt, meaning we're salaried. For example, all right, I'm a tenured professor at Camden County College, plus I have administrative duties. I'm also the director of food and nutrition science. They don't want to pay me hourly. I see somebody shaking their head now, because that means that the hours would be so high, it would be very, very difficult for them to say, oh, you're going to be paid $30 an hour. If they calculated all the hours I work, that would send my income way up in many instances, because we have such a broad scope of responsibility. That's good and bad, okay? But when I worked with the chefs at the Academy of Culinary Arts, they did not want to be paid salary, because they said that that casino or that hotel or restaurant, no matter where they work, if they were salaried, they said that they would work them 50, 60 hours a week if they could. Okay? And they were doing manual work. So again, they would work them just additional hours. Okay, someone's joining us. This is good. I think that's Tran. Yeah, she's joining us. Let me welcome her in. Hi, Tran. How are you? If you have a video, if you can share your face, that would be good. I was going over the workforce staffing PowerPoint. That's what we're discussing now. And we're just starting to differentiate between our salaried and hourly employees. This is how they're compensated. This is how they're paid. And I was just giving examples of the difference that when you're a professional, you have so many responsibilities that your organization, that you're working for, in many cases, do not want to pay you hourly. Okay, they don't want to pay you hourly. Therefore, they pay you salary. Okay, so if someone is being paid by the hour, they're non-exempt. If you are salaried, you're exempt. And it's based on how you receive your wages. So if you're salaried, they generally give you an annual salary. And that's based on your net, okay? Your net is how much they're paying you, but you know, out of that net, they're going to take out federal, state taxes, I don't know, dues for this, something going towards medical. Who's been salaried? Raise your hand. Okay.
I've been salaried before.
Yes. Are you currently salaried?
Currently I'm paid hourly.
Okay. You are a good example of someone who sees the clear difference.
Mm-hmm.
The clear difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you can sort of give us idea of what your title was when you were salaried and what some of your responsibilities were, and then take a job title that you were paid hourly and give us an idea of what your responsibilities and why you think one place chose salary where another one might have chose that hourly for you.
All right.
Okay.
So when I worked with Cincinnati Ballet, my title was an apprentice with the company.
Mm-hmm.
I was paid, this approximate with taxes taken out, around like $15,000 a year, which is not a lot of money.
How much?
Considering $15,000 a year.
Oh, got you.
And I worked from 9:15 to 5:45 every day.
Uh-huh.
So we're definitely like minimally paid for the amount of work we do.
Mm-hmm.
My responsibilities were along the lines of attending rehearsals to any pieces that I was cast in, being on time, showing up, trying not to be injured. Where now I work two hourly jobs. So I work as a dance teacher at night. So if I cover anyone's classes, I can add those hours weekly and get paid for that, which is great. I also work with a child with Down syndrome, and through public partnership, it's New Jersey Department of Developmental Disabilities. They pay me per hour biweekly, how often
Okay. I'm curious, what do you do with the developmental part? What are some of your duties? Just share that with me.
Very specific to the person that you're working with. So I work with a 16-year-old boy, so my responsibilities are to attend Zoom classes with him every day, help him with classwork. If he needs notes to be taken, he doesn't write very quickly, or he'll speak essays to me and I'll type them for him, and I'll just help to guide him, especially with like math, English, kind of just break it down more for him, easier to understand. So those are my responsibilities with that, but it's very specific to different cases. Some people work with people with disabilities who are a little bit older, and I'll have to take them to the store, help them use the bathroom or shower, things like that.
Got you.
That's not my responsibility for my situation.
That's interesting because my 3-year-old grandson, he has been diagnosed with an autism, one of those spectrums. And just this week, he started with his occupational therapy. And just with occupational therapy, he can take off his clothes fine, but it's putting his clothes on.
Yeah, one of the things that
Yeah.
I worked with him on, aside from school, is tying shoes.
Yes.
We spent quite a bit of time going through that. So it's like he dresses himself, he showers, he does
Mhm.
everything, but something as simple as tying shoes was very difficult. But
Yes.
he's great now. He ties his pants, he ties his shoes. He's we call it the
Okay.
double knot. You know,
Yeah.
good times.
Okay. I'm going to talk with you more about that.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause my daughter's working really hard with my grandson. Uh, Actually, he's in early intervention with the school system. And come to find out, he's brighter than the other children
Oh,
that
wow.
are
That's
attending.
awesome.
Yeah, he knows his colors. We almost think he has somewhat of a photographic memory
Wow.
because his memory's good. You know, of course, he has selective memory.
Yeah. All kids do.
Yeah,
That's
and
for sure.
he has someone that works on his behavior because he gets frustrated because that's normal. When
Yeah.
you're having difficulties, you're going to get frustrated. But we're going to go back on topic. So what Amanda's telling us as far as her salaried again, she's being paid a certain amount every year. Okay. That's typically what salaried is, and that's exempt where you're hourly, you're being paid by the hour. So, what makes that person being paid hourly, meaning it's non exempt, is that uh, they are being compensated by the hour. Employers must be paid non-exempt employees a wage for all hours worked. Okay? That means that either you're on a time clock or you are keeping a ledger, but there is a way of tracking how many hours you're working on a daily basis, which can be calculated via weekly, via monthly, or annually. But that salaried person receives the same rate of pay regardless of the number of hours worked in a week. Workers who fall under administrative, executive, or professional category of employment are typically considered exempt. We're saying typically because you can always negotiate with your employer. Yeah, you know, if they're open and they're say, well, do you want to be paid, you know, salary or hourly? They give you the option. You can definitely look at your options. Again, this type of work usually involves non-manual office work. Because of the chefs were manual, meaning that they actually were in production, I don't blame them for wanting to be hourly. Because when something's manual, you're standing on your feet. Not only are you putting in the hours, you're putting in physical effort. And if somebody is the difference between working 8 hours, 9, 10, or 12 hours is a big difference. Now, I'm not saying that because you're sitting behind a desk and you're not really physically doing a lot of labor that, you know, you shouldn't be paid hourly, but I can just visualize myself going downstairs and cooking food for 8 hours, you know, versus sitting behind this computer and teaching for 8 hours. So again, that's just one thing you can look at. Now, again, hourly wages by the federal government, this is a big topic. President Biden would like the federal hourly rate to be increased to $15 an hour. It is currently $7 and something. I don't know exact change. Every state, by the way, must pay at least the federal minimum wage. And there are a number of states that only pay federal wage. Here in New Jersey, we are beyond federal. So each state is different with their hourly wage, but it must be at least the federal minimum wage. An employee who's paid a set rate for each hour worked, which is at least the minimum wage set by the government. And that government is, first of all, the federal minimum wage, which is set by, Congress, which hopefully they will bring it up from $7 and some cents. President Biden wants it to go to 15. So we'll see if that can be brought up to 15. It may be brought up in increments. We'll see. Here in the state of New Jersey, our governor approved it to be increased in increments. Like every year, every other year, it goes up. Here in New Jersey, I think we're at $12 an hour. Can someone give me the exact figure where we are in New Jersey? Do you know, Amanda or Katori?
I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, okay, she's gonna look it up real quick. I think we're at $12, but the goal is to get to $15, but we're not there at $15. I think we're at 12. She's looking it up.
Yeah, as of January 1st, 2021, $12 per hour.
Very good.
I think it goes up $1 a year. So in 2019, it was 10, 2020, 11, now we're at 12.
So that's the way it is here in the state of New Jersey. So we're quite fortunate compared to other states that have kept it at the federal minimum wage, which is $7 and something, okay? So that is the minimum wage. We can refer that to as an hourly worker. Now, base rate is the hourly rate of pay for workers who are paid by the hour. So you're saying, well, what's the difference? The hourly worker is, again, as it defines it, as being paid at least the minimum wage set by the government. But a base rate is when they are paying at least that minimum wage, and here in the state of New Jersey would be the New Jersey minimum wage, but they give you raises. And in the food service industry, an incentive would be to start at the minimum wage set by the government, which we set by the state. But with longevity, with satisfactory work performance, you're going to get an increase, let's say, every year. So that base rate, the hourly rate of pay for workers who are paid by the hour, that's just taking your base rate. So your base rate could be minimum wage. Your base rate could be, your increases over time, okay? But it's that base rate that we have to remember. If you are an hourly worker, you have to be compensated for hours that are over your base rate. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's important. Anytime over that base rate. So this is when we get into differential wages. When you are non-exempt, that means that you have to be paid for additional hours over that, over your full-time hours. So if you're full-time in your organization is 40 hours a week, once you have reached your 40 hours, any time over those 40 hours, you should be paid additional time for those hours. And we're going to talk about all of the different possible differential wages that you would be paid for over your base rate. I don't want to say salary, it's your base rate. So differential wage rates changes in the rate of pay, such as additional pay for working overtime. So an example could be a prep cook. A prep cook is being paid, all right, we're here in the state of New Jersey, minimum wage for a prep cook would be definitely the $12 an hour. So he's being paid $12 an hour and he's full-time, and someone called out sick. And the manager of the kitchen asked that prep cook, can you work an additional 4 hours today? Now, somewhere between him or she working their 40 hours, they worked those extra 4 hours because someone was out sick. They worked 44 hours that week. That means that they need to be paid for those 4 hours. If you had been salaried, no, you wouldn't be paid additional money. You also can be paid differential pay for performing exceptionally difficult work. It can be used in the food service industry. I can't think of an example. All right. Say that in this food service operation, they have maybe one hourly worker that has strong baking skills, and they want to start baking their pies and their cakes from scratch because, again, they're finding that the prepackaged has too much sodium. They're really not meeting the preferences of their patients, and they want the cakes to be freshly baked. You have a chef that can bake those cakes, and you're the only one that really has the skills. They'll pay you additional money when you bake. Okay, that's a good incentive, and you are paying that person because of their exceptional skills. And I think it would be fair. I think that would be a great incentive. And other chefs will say, wow, I think I'm going to brush up on my baking skills because I would like to not only be paid, I don't know, $18 an hour, I'd like to be paid $20 an hour when I bake. So that might be an example. Or for working in a different job. A different job would be that prep cook that's asked to work as a cook. The prep cook might be getting, let's say, $12 an hour. But if they work as a cook one day, they're going to be paid the hourly rate of a cook. And say that the cooks are being paid $20 an hour. So definitely, if you're working in a position of higher responsibilities, requiring higher skills, you should be paid accordingly. Or additional payment made to employees who do not receive benefits. We know that some individuals may be married or have a partner that has health benefits, and you don't need double benefits. For example, I have benefits, my husband's under my plan, where he may work, he doesn't need to have money taken out of his paycheck to cover any medical or dental or whatever it may be. They will put that money that would have been paid for those benefits into your salary, or they would break it up into an hourly rate and you would see that in your paycheck. So there's places that will do that. Very good incentives. I'll go through this quickly, but I obtained this from a textbook that explains some of the criteria for the differential wages. And these are typical in the food service industry, double back. We have people that have worked their shift and they have gotten their car and they went home. And the food service director is still trying to get people to cover that next shift. So it's additional pay earned if less than a minimum period of time, for example, 10 hours elapses between the time an employee completes a shift and begins the next shift. So that means that that person hasn't even had enough time to minimum period of time. Yes, they haven't had enough time to even relax and rest up, okay? So they went home 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe even 8 hours. They're asked to come back and do another shift. You're gonna pay them a certain amount of money if they had to double back, okay? Double time, they're being paid twice the base rate used if an employee works excessively long hours, for example, more than 12 hours in a day. So say that that prep cook who worked their 8 hours and then worked an additional 4 hours, but come to find out, they said, wow, I need you for another full 8 hours. And if that's the case, that prep cook would be paid double time, okay? And they also may use double time for holidays, but it needs to be clearly defined in an employee handbook, because we don't want your employees particular to not understand what it really is. When I was a food service director, maybe my employees have worked somewhere and they were paid double time on holidays. And I had to tell them, no, it's time and a half. And they kept saying double time. I said, there's a difference between double time and time and a half. So I would calculate their time for them. And finally, they started seeing the difference. I said, we don't pay you double time. And double time does mean that they're being paid twice that base rate. So if they're being paid $12 an hour, then it would be $24 an hour, okay? And that's how they were calculating it. And I said, no, it's time and a half. And we're gonna get to time and a half in a few minutes, okay? But this is that double time. Great incentive, especially if you're asking somebody to work more than 12 hours in a day. If you ask somebody to work 16 hours a day, that's a lot of hours, particularly if it's manual work. Manual work, standing on their feet, preparing meals, serving food. I don't know what all their responsibilities are. A good incentive would be double time, okay? Hazard pay. There are some places that, they'll pay their employees additional money if it's particularly hazardous or is distasteful task. I can't really come up with anything that may fall under the food service department, but maybe when I would ask my employees to clean out the grease trap, they hated cleaning the grease trap. So knowing about hazard pay, I would probably work something out with the administrator that it takes them maybe 2 hours to clean the grease trap out every month. Why can't we pay that person, time and a half when they clean that grease trap, and they'll get additional money for doing that? That might say, okay, I'd like to have that extra money. So, it's not a pleasant job, but I'll do it. Okay. Some people might think cleaning the restrooms. We should never have our staff that work in the kitchen clean the restroom. Okay, it should be a different department like housekeeping. Are you following what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't want to cross over into any possible chance of contamination in the kitchen. So I never ever assign my kitchen workers to cleaning bathrooms. Never ever. But yes, the grease trap, maybe if there's an outside dumpster that needs to be, what would I say, power cleaned. And if you smell the dumpster, it's kind of stinky, you know what I mean? So maybe as they're power washing it, they can wear a mask, but they get extra money during that time that they're power washing the dumpsters. So that might be an example, maybe. Because they do have to wash trash cans out. And some people say, what's the difference between washing trash cans out and cleaning the bathroom? There's a difference there. Okay, holiday pay. Premium pay for time worked on an employer designated holiday. Now, in the food service industry, we don't close down for holidays. Many of you, where you're going to be a DTR, an RD, you're going to be working in a food service department that's either in a hospital, long-term care, assisted living, rehab center. Our patients or residents are there 24/7. They live there. And when they live there, it doesn't matter whether it's a holiday or not, they still have to be fed, okay? And that's the same with nurses. Nurses, they have to work holidays. Now, RDs, we don't necessarily work holidays, okay? But if we are in a supervisory position, we may have to work some holidays. Somebody's got to supervise that kitchen, okay? But your workers, your hourly workers, your non-exempt, they need to be paid differential pay if they work a holiday. And that's generally, now some places may choose to pay them double time, but most places I've worked for, they pay them time and a half. And we're going to get to time and a half in a few minutes. Okay? Overtime. When it comes to overtime, additional pay for hours worked in excess of full time. And I gave you an example with the prep cook who worked 8 hours, and he's going to work an additional 4 hours that day. As long as he has worked his 40 hours in a week, and it comes up to 44 hours for the week, he gets paid for those 4 hours. What we have to make sure employees understand is if they took a sick day or vacation day or personal day, they are not eligible for overtime pay because you have to physically have worked your 40 hours. It's like taking 2 vacation days in a week. You come back from your vacation and they want you to work 2 shifts. You say, oh boy, I get paid time and a half for working those 8 additional hours. Now, it's defined as additional pay for hours worked in excess of full time. Often this is more than 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week. So they put in there that you have to make sure that you have not used a sick day, vacation day, personal day to be eligible for overtime. Okay, that's important. Pay in lieu of benefits, we discussed that earlier. Again, the addition to the base pay rate earned by employees who are not eligible for benefits. Some people, again, I would say that not eligible for benefits is when they say I'm already covered under my spouse, okay? Because again, why not get that additional money in your pay versus getting, those benefits where if you go to the doctor's office, if you already have a co-payment, you go to the dentist, you have dental, it just doesn't make sense because you can only use one at a time. You can't use both of them and together anyway. Shift differential. This is important because in the food service industry, we see this in our commercial food service industry, not so much in hospitals, but it could be. But usually a food service department is open somewhere maybe 5 in the morning to about 8 at night. So we have 2 shifts, and we have one shift working 8 and another one working 8. So we're open 16 hours. Let's put it that way. So if you did the math, let's say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, yeah, I went over. But the bottom line is we're not open 24 hours, okay? Therefore, if you are a food service operation that are open to after 12 midnight, like a Wawa, okay? I'm trying to think who else is open 24 hours. Wawa is like one of the few that I can think off the top of my head that you're open 24/7. Casinos are open 24/7. Yeah. So if a casino, food service operations are open, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3, 4, again, they should be paid that differential shift. Not a lot of people like working those shifts. They're not the favorites. Now, some people may have their reasons why that works better for them, but they're usually paid more per hour. Anybody ever work for Wawa? Okay, good organization to work for, by the way. But if you work that 11 to 7 shift, I think that those would be the hours that you would be paid something like versus the $12 an hour, you would be paid $14 an hour, which some people say, wow, you know, it's worth working that shift because I get paid more per hour, okay? Split shift, this works well if someone, I think of a student, someone is working, but they're going to college also, where they can work 4 hours in the morning. They can go to school, take their classes, and come back later on that day and work another 4 hours. Additional pay for working a shift that is non-continuous or split into 2 different blocks of time. It may also work for a working mom, where you want to work 4 hours while your children are in school, but you get off, you can pick your children up, you can be home, you can fix dinner, and maybe their dad or another caregiver can come in, and then you can go back to work and work another 4 hours. I'm just throwing that out there. That's a good differential pay. Therefore, additional pay for working a shift that is non-continuous. Not only you're only going to get $12 an hour, you might get paid $14 an hour because you're there for 4 hours, you leave, and you come back later and do another 4 hours. That's an incentive. Here's that time and a half that I was referring to. It's not double time. Pay rate 150% of that base rate for overtime. For example, if you exceed those 40 hours. Time and a half is very common, time and a half. So I may not have to share my document camera, but let's say that, yes, someone's being paid $12 an hour. So you would go 12 times 1.5. What do you get?
$18.
Very good, $18. So that means that that person got paid $12 an hour for the first 40 hours that they worked in that week. But any additional over, for example, that prep cook who worked 44 hours, he would get paid 40 times 12, and then he would get paid 4 times 18. So how much would he make for his first 40 hours? $40 times 12. Tori, you have it?
So I can never unmute myself.
That's
I
okay.
have 480.
480. So that's $480. And how much did he make for the four hours over?
I got 72.
72. We're going to add it together. So how much did he make that week?
552.
Yeah, $552. Katori, you got the same thing, correct?
Yes.
Good. Tram, are you there? Can you unmute? I don't want to leave you out of the conversation. Tram, unmute. Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's how we calculate that time and a half. Okay. Work in a higher job classification. We're going to take that same prep cook and they want him to work as a cook for those 4 hours. Okay? So employees paid at the rate for the job performed rather than at the employee's usual base rate. So if he works the 4 hours and that cook makes $20 an hour, then we know that they're going to have to pay him how much for working those 4 hours?
$80.
He's going to make $80. Yes. So he makes like $8 more if versus working 4 hours in his own position versus working 4 hours as a cook. So he's going to get paid $20 an hour. Work in a lower job classification. Employee earns the usual base rate even though a lower rated job is performed. The same prep cook is going to work as a dishwasher. Now, technically, we have to pay our dishwashers at $12 an hour, but let's say that we're paying our prep cook $14 an hour, okay? Yeah, I'm just saying that, yeah, we're not gonna pay the dishwashers the same rate as our prep cook. So in that case, that prep cook would still be working his rate. We wouldn't drop him down to what we're paying our dishwashers, okay? So this is an example of what we just got finished talking about. This is someone working $8 an hour. Wow, they're just above the federal minimum wage here. Okay, so they're being paid $8 an hour and they work 40 hours, being paid $8 an hour. So you see that this person made $320 on the base salary for a week. But this employee also worked a overtime rate. So the overtime rate, and we already calculated that earlier, it's the 8 times 150, but it would be 8 times 1.5. So remember, you have to change that percentage as a decimal, okay? So it would be 8 times 1.5, and you see you get $12 an hour. So that would be the hour overtime rate, which is time and a half. And again, at $12 an hour, 8 hours, which is 1 day working overtime. It was probably a holiday there. So we see that we take the base salary, that's the 40 hours, but in addition to the 40 hours, that person worked, 8 hours over. They got paid $96, and of course, that would be their gross pay for the week. Gross pay for the week, and we did a sample of that with our prep cook. How do we track this differential pay? It has to show on the schedule. Somewhere along the line, we have to be able to give this information to payroll. So within our department, it's that food service director that knows, again, that are making the schedule up. And it's really good if you know ahead of time. This happens to be a dietary, a DTR, okay? Or let me back up. It's a dietary aid that's working as a DTR on some days. It's just like that prep cook is working as a prep cook some days and working as a cook on some other days. But that has to be designated on the schedule. So this is Joan. You see that she's off on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again, this is Sunday to Sunday. Sunday to Sunday to Saturday. Sunday to Saturday. She's off on Wednesdays and she's off on Saturdays. She's off the next week on Sunday and she's off on Saturday. And that's typical in the food service industry. You don't always get the same days off each week. But you notice here that on a Thursday and Friday, she worked as a DTR. So she should be paid that DTR rate, okay? She also worked here. She worked on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So she should get her base pay for that position, whatever that base pay is. But then she should be paid the rate as a DTR here. And again, she's being paid a rate of a DTR on that Wednesday, and here's a holiday. So we need to have it documented so that this person can be paid accordingly, okay? Now, earlier we were talking about some of the difference between non-exempt and exempt. Non-exempt meaning our hourly paid employee and the salary professionals, okay? That's generally doing a lot of paperwork, working in an office, maybe just doing supervisory work, and little to none, no manual work. Again, if it's predominantly manual, it really should be hourly. So that salaried worker, again, it's a set annual salary who is expected to work until the job is completed. So that is very, very true, that we just work until the job's completed. If I'm writing a new menu for that food service department, I don't get paid per hour because it takes hours and hours to write a menu. I would have to work at home, okay? Again, I can work on it on the job, but many of us salary workers, we bring work home, okay? And we work on projects at home. Trust me, I work harder from home than I would if I went on campus to work. I'm convinced. I've been home a week and a year. It'll be exactly a year when we go into spring break this week. So we start spring break after Friday. Last year, we went on spring break and didn't return back face to face. We converted all our classes to online and we taught the rest of the semester online. If you taught summer courses, they were online. Of course, our fall and now our spring courses are online. We do have some lab courses that if your department has labs, for example, this semester I go in on Mondays from 5:30 to 9 to teach quantity foods lab. But other than that, I work right from this desk, okay? I'm in my home office And I teach on Zoom. I update my courses. I answer emails. I have conference calls. I attend Zoom department meetings. And I mean, I'm quite busy. For example, 3:30 today, I have a chairs and coordinators meeting. So our dean will have our meeting at 3:30. So again, I work from home, but again, I'm not getting paid any additional money. I'm salaried. Uh, Burnout. That's one reason why if you're doing a lot of manual work, and it doesn't have to be predominantly manual work, you can get burnout. You can get burnout just from working long hours. And if it's manual work, you're going to be physically tired if you're working over those 8-hour days and they're paying you salary. But even hourly, you can get burnout. And that's when people have to step back and say, I can only handle but so much overtime. I can only handle, but again, there's some people who say, wow, I can live on overtime. But when it's manual, you can get burnout. You may need that money, additional money for, your rent, your car payments, and we can just pile up all the expenses you have. And that's one reason why they want to bring up that federal minimum wage, because we have a lot of people that are working 2 jobs at that federal minimum wage because in their state, it's the same as federal. They're working 8 hours on one job and then they go and do 8 hours somewhere else. Or they'll work part-time somewhere else. That's still long hours. And that person can get burnout. So it's very important that people do not overwork themselves. And we are finding that some people are doing that just to pay for rent and food and caring for their children. If they have a 2-income family, we're finding that both people are working 2 jobs just to keep things going. And my heart goes out because, again, that and it's typical burnout. Not only are they working long hours, they're tired. They're dissatisfied. Dissatisfied can be on the job. Dissatisfied can be when you come home and you're not giving your family the time they need. May it be children having to be remotely taught. And as a parent, you have to come home and make sure that they did their work. It's just added responsibility can add some dissatisfaction. Angry with work, okay? You can just get angry because you are tired and burned out, or you're dissatisfied on your job. So there are so many factors that creates that burnout, and I'm running out of time. And of course, this affects attrition. People decide that they can't handle that job anymore. So, they elect just to work one job, so they'll quit one job, or hopefully, they're going back, they're getting their education so they can get a higher wage job. So that's one reason why people are going back, getting learning a trade, going into a professional career, because they're looking to get a higher wage so that they don't have to work minimum wage or multiple jobs just to make ends meet. Because in the food service industry, our non-skilled workers, they are typically making, minimum wage or just slightly above that. And I'm going to pick up here, and I haven't gotten to FTEs yet. All right. So when we come back from spring break, we are definitely going to focus just on FTEs. Okay. Now, I can open the practice FTE, and you can go over these slides on your own. But when I come back, I'm going to start with the FTEs, then we'll look at the correct answers for those FTEs. So I'm almost done there, all right? So I'll focus on FTEs. I'll get through this. And then that puts me to diversity so that I can move over into our leadership chapter. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to go back to our course outline. I want to stay on schedule. Again, I have one more day. See right here where I finished the workforce? I'll focus strictly on FTEs here. We'll go over the practice sheet. I'll bring up the correct answers, and then by the 30th, I should be able to go into diversity and go into the leadership chapter. So I will open this practice sheet. I'll do it right now. And it is here. I published it. You should see it now, okay? You can see this practice sheet, but first go through your workforce PowerPoints and study the FTE calculations. I'll see how you do on your own. I'll go over those slides with you. Then we'll look at the correct answers for your practice sheet. Fair enough? Okay. Any questions? Okay, I know Amanda, you work and you haven't been able to attend the 106, so I won't see you until after spring break.
Alrighty.
Yeah, email me if you have any questions.
Okay.
Katori, we have what together? I have you for another class.
We have life cycle.
I thought it
nutrition.
was. You took the words out of my mouth. Tomorrow evening will be in life cycle. No, tonight will be in life. Tonight will be in life cycle. So I'll see you this evening.
Yeah, see you then.
Okay. And Tram, just to let you know that we're on spring break for a week after Friday. Okay. You're unmuted, so you can speak. All right. Okay. All right, everyone. Take care.
Have a good spring break.
Okay. I'm still doing a lot of work, sad to say.
Sure. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.